Big data and data-driven innovation is absolutely here to stay, and it's only growing. It's growing fast. These 23 minutes I'm going to spend on showing you a few examples, some Danish examples, some examples from around the world. And I am, of course, going to end up looking at the ethics, which we think is very important when we talk about artificial intelligence. You can already now, if you want, download the whole slide deck. The QR code there is to the link, MSDDI. The importance of that is that there's a ton of material, there's a ton of things I would love to tell you about, but with 23 minutes, I'm kind of limited. So I'm going to keep products out of these 23 minutes. I'm going to show you real-life examples. There'll probably be a Microsoft logo here and there. And all the product stuff, all the services stuff that we would, of course, love to tell you about are in the appendices. So you choose if you want to see them. So let's get on with it. There's no doubt that data, I mean, you're all here. There's a reason you're here. You're either already using data, you're already seeing data as what we call the new electricity. You see this as being something that may be able to transform your business, making sure that you adopt new digital capabilities. I'm going to stumble on that word as well, Christiane. Digital is hard for Danes to say. But there's no doubt that this is not something that's just brand new. It is something that has been growing quite tremendously over the past few years. We see this in all businesses. These are just some examples. I'd love to give you a case story on each and every one of them. We have them. They are on the website that's linked later on in the slide deck. But just look at the one on the right, the agriculture. There is actually an IoT-connected cow. There are cows in Japan that is connected, that is on the internet. And you're already saying, well, why do we connect cows to the internet? Well, it actually is proven that they can predict when a cow is about to calve, if it's a pregnant cow. An IoT sensor, kind of a Fitbit for cows, can actually predict when it's going to calve, and then you can minimize the discomfort and the loss of production because the farmer can then see where are this cow that is about to calve. So even industries where you don't believe that data, or you don't imagine that data is anything that can change your business or do the transformation that brings you into 2020 or beyond, I assure you, people are already doing it. Now, this is, of course, based not only that we now know about data, and we've all been using data mining, and we talk about big data. And big data is not just about the growth and the amount of data. This is just a prediction. Some of the analysis agencies are looking at the amount of data that is growing in the marketplace today. It is predicted, and this is the most conservative of predictions, that by 2020 we're going to have 1.5 gigabyte of data per person per day created. That's about 4 zettabytes or 4 billion terabytes per year by 2020. And this is the most conservative of predictions. So the growth in the amount of data is, of course, a foundation for actually looking at big data. And big data is not just about the bigness of it or the hugeness of it. It's actually about the correlation between data sets. Many of you know this, and I'm happy that all the speakers before me have actually nailed down some of the prerequisites, some of the initial thoughts on artificial intelligence and big data, so I don't have to spend any of my 20 minutes on it. But it's important to know that big data and the correlation of huge data sets is not the only trend driving this transformation. It's based on 3 things. The big data itself, of course, yes, we register, we have sensors, we pick up data in all aspects of our lives. That creates a growth in the amount of data. Now there is then a need for a capacity to store it. Dollar for dollar, cent for cent, there's only one way we can actually do this in an efficient, both cost-wise, energy-wise, and also availability-wise, and that is through cloud solutions. Cloud is a prerequisite for actually being able to use cloud or big data sets. And that goes to the third trend, which is the intelligence. We have now realized, we've come to realize that it's not just researchers that can gain value from doing this analysis of the data sets. We have the capacity now in the cloud to have machine power enough to actually analyze and get insights and then decision-making systems on top of all these data sets. So the cloud is definitely a prerequisite. Now, Andrea was talking about how big an advantage we have in Denmark because we have all these, well, we have the digital identity, we have e-box, we have a digital public society, for better and for worse. One thing we're very proud of, and we should be extremely proud of, is that even in our strategy for digitization of the public sector, we have an initiative. One of the 33 initiatives actually says the public sector itself needs to be able to use cloud computing. We need to be able to use it, of course, in a secure way, a way that conserves our privacy, but we need to be able to use cloud. Otherwise, we simply cannot make use and gain value from the digital transformation that is available to us. We should be extremely proud that our politicians and our civil servants have seen this as something that we need to embrace. And Denmark is, I'm happy to say, by far the most cloud-adopting country in the world. And we should definitely continue doing that. There are so many, I've just listed 6 of the benefits from going into the cloud. Now, of course, there are some concerns. There are concerns that one should address. But compared to any other solutions that we've built up over the years, there's no doubt both in terms of privacy, security, and cost, this is second to none in terms of IT architecture paradigms. So, let's get into some of the transformations that we see out there. I'm going to show you a few videos. There are going to be links to the videos so you can look at them on YouTube when you get back home if you want to reuse them. We normally see, well, basically 4, but I only picked out 3 areas where we see people use data-driven innovation, big data sets, analytics, and the cloud to transform their business in any way. Either, as it says on the left there, to change the way they engage with their customers. Either change the way they run their business, their operations, to optimize it. Or lastly, and that's where we always talk about digital transformation, is how do we transform our products? How do we create new product sets? How do we do the disruption? The buzzword nobody wants to use anymore. How do we transform our business, our products, using digital services? So one by one, I'm going to show you a few examples. It's going to be videos in some cases. This is one. We don't have to go that far. Just on the other side of the Øresund, the sound between Denmark and Sweden, you find Dyslexia, a small startup, who started out using the cloud to analyze the vast amount of data that you collect when people with dyslexia are reading a text. I'm going to let the video play now. It's only a minute and so, and it'll explain to you in Swinglish how this cloud is enabling this.
Mamma säger, nu ska vi ge oss iväg. Pappa säger, aj, mitt huvud.
If you have undiagnosed dyslexia today, this is going to affect your whole life. Not only is your reading skill poor, but it also affects your confidence and your motivation in school.
Our vision is that every pupil should have the right kind of support in school as early as possible.
Screening methods today do not measure reading performance at all.
The Dyslexia screening tool is based on actual reading. So what we do is let the children read a short passage of text, and we record the eye movements using an eye tracker. We have been using Visual Studio to develop the client for recording eye movements. These eye movements recordings are sent to the cloud and are processed using machine learning models to look for patterns that differentiate a normal reader from a dyslexic reader.
We started with fairly simple models built using Weka on our desktops. We were able to transfer our models in essentially a matter of hours to Azure, which helps us to immediately analyze the data, bring it up to date in the cloud, and we receive instantaneous feedback.
In Visual Studio Online on the Azure Cloud platform enables us to develop a solution that we scale in great numbers.
By using Visual Studio Online, we're able actually to work in a quite distributed way.
One of the great things with Azure Cloud was ease of moving our existing code, that is PHP and Java code. We do not have to rewrite so much of it.
The customer needs to trust us that this is a secure solution. This is sensitive data. With Azure platform, we don't need to think about security. We don't need to think about capacity. We don't need to think about performance. We can go into new countries and everything is just in place. So we can focus on the things that we are good in, which is modeling of the eye movements and measurement of that.
Microsoft has helped us to take our method from being a research product to something that we can actually do live in school. And here we have the possibility to help children become better readers and to improve their lives.
Just to put some numbers on it, we had a study done by CD Group around dyslexia. If we develop tools like this to help people with dyslexia, it was actually it would enable the public budget to be lessened by 1.2 billion Danish kroner a year. So, because we were getting people with dyslexia through education and into employment much faster. So there's a bottom line using a solution like this and using artificial intelligence. Now this is a much more down to earth, something I think all of us use.
Good afternoon, welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order? Yes, I would like 2 Happy Meals, 1 cheeseburger and 1 chicken McNugget, both with fries and apples, 1 with a chocolate milk and 1 with a small orange juice. Also give me 2 cheeseburgers, both of those no onion and 1 of those no ketchup as well, 1 fry and a large coffee, 2 cream, 3 sugars. Would you like that fry to be large? Yes, thank you. Would you like barbecue sauce with those nuggets? No, sweet and sour. Is the order on your screen correct? Yes. Okay, your total is $14.68. Please pull around to the first window.
So perfect example of how a technical and artificial cognitive service assists the human, the girl or the counter clerk, in actually understanding in a very noisy environment what is the person actually ordering. And if anybody knows about McDonald's, there's one thing they really measure their people on. Do not spend more than 1 minute, 60 seconds per customer. So if they get an order wrong, not good. They actually get a report when they go home in the evening saying how many customers have you spent more than 60 seconds on. So the clerk is absolutely happy that they actually reduced, they haven't eliminated, but they reduced their number of wrong orders by more than 20%. Using already available services. So that was the engage your customer in a different way. I'm pretty sure that in a few years' time, we won't have any student jobs at McDonald's at the McDrive, unfortunately. They'll find other jobs, but it will be a bot helping us at McDrive. This is only in the US as it is now, but I'm sure with the numbers McDonald's is experiencing, they will post it out in many more countries. So about optimizing your business. The one example I always go back to is ThyssenKrupp's. Most of you have ridden an elevator from ThyssenKrupp's. They have actually 1.2 million elevators around the globe. Now, each of these elevators have more than 400 error messages, more than 600 sensors on different parts of the elevator. You all know it's as a lot of electronics, but also a lot of mechanical parts. Now, they're using sensors to follow up on how are the parts doing, because when an elevator breaks down, we all know how much of a nuisance it is, but it's actually for ThyssenKrupp's the worst loyalty factor of all. So they now are gathering all these 600 data points from every trip that an elevator takes, the 1.2 million elevators around the globe, and they then use predictive analytics to figure out all these parts in an elevator. How much can this part actually normally take? If it turns 360 degrees every time you go up a floor, well, if it's 250,000 times that it turns 360 degrees, and then it normally breaks down, or let's say there's an 80% probability that it will break down after 250,000 turns, why not proactively go change that part before it might break down? So they've actually now deployed this to their technicians. They're doing predictive maintenance, and they're doing proactive servicing of all the elevators. This creates, of course, a huge loyalty, great loyalty. They can sell extra service to their customers. But the bottom line for ThyssenKrupp itself is now their inventory. They can even predict now, well, this part, we know how many elevators has this part, and we know the number of turns each and every one of them have, so we can predict if we need 10,000 of this part in our storage or not. If we only need 100, we only buy 100. So they limited, or they again cut their inventory cost by more than 20%. Using sensors, using data analysis. And it's very important. I don't know if anybody touched on this yet, but it's very important. We as humans are normally we're used to, if we get a question from a boss saying, how many customers do we have that owns this product? We go in, we do a SQL star select from blah, 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 and then we get the exact number. We have 947 customers for this product. Now, when we talk about machine learning and we talk about artificial intelligence, it's all a matter of mathematics and statistic proof, meaning it's not exact. It's a probability. We need to work with probability. So ThyssenKrupp doesn't know that this part is breaking down after 250,000 turns, but there's a high probability, so they do it proactively as a preemptive strike on some of their parts. This is very important when we start talking about artificial intelligence. Now, to the transform your product, I think Andre already took Dinero and told you about Dinero. One thing Andre might not know about Dinero is that they're actually deploying artificial intelligence into their economics, their bookkeeping system. They're actually already deploying services to their customers where they try to predict based on the cash flow, not just of that one customer, but of all their customers, because they have the full overview. Of course, they don't look at the individuals, because we all want to take care of privacy and security, but they look at the patterns. The artificial intelligence, the machine learning, can recognize a pattern of maybe this debitor is going to be a bad debitor. Because we have experienced that anybody who follows this pattern in their cash flow ends up with an 80% or 84% chance of being a bad debitor. Why not sell that service to a Dinero customer, saying, we don't know for sure, but the statistics proves that maybe you need to pay a bit more attention to this debitor if you want to save the cash flow. Now, Andre also talked about high schools and attendance reports. I hate to tell you, Andre, it's already in place. InLogic have already created such a solution that is being used around high schools in Denmark. And they actually correlate not only your attendance ratio, the courses you don't attend, the days you don't attend, the times you don't attend, and then they correlate it with something as unethical, if you want, at least on the edge, as our postal numbers. So which city do you come from? Compared to the attendance report, that gives them the ability to predict if somebody would drop out with a higher probability. Then, of course, adding services to that one individual, making sure that they stay in school. That brings me to the ethics part. Because this nice gentleman, we're actually same age, he looks a bit younger, but anyway, our CEO, Satya Nadella, he's done tremendous things to Microsoft. He's changed so many ways of thinking, but the one thing he nails down every time, hammers into our heads are, look, we won't be able to sell a thing. We won't be able to create any product or platform. We can do all the innovation we want without trust that is based on our principles of security by design, privacy by design, compliance with the laws, but first and foremost, transparency. Without that, we cannot have a place in the IT business. We cannot help in the digital transformation that we want to help with. So, in order to do that, and if we want to do artificial intelligence, we need to address this. Those of you who are as old as I know that this is from the Space Odyssey 2001. I see heads nodding, and I see all the young people saying, what? So I gave a different reference. This guy, you know, right? This is the fear-mongering. This is how we normally see artificial intelligence. I don't have time to go into general artificial intelligence and narrow artificial intelligence. But this is the general artificial intelligence. We have not seen that yet. All predictions say that it's, let's say, 50 to 70 years in the future. I might live to be that long because I will replace parts from this guy. But anyway, we don't have this yet. And this is the fear scenario. And if you Google it, this is what you'll get. Artificial intelligence will destroy humanity. Well, it will never happen. Perfect. Or it will replace us or take over the world. I don't know if Google users, I know there are more than there are Bing users, but apparently Bing users are a bit more positive when they look at artificial intelligence. I have not doctored this. These are true. Anyway, let's move on. It's just I couldn't help myself. These are true. You can try it. Try Bing. Anyway. Okay, I said I was going to say one product thing. Anyway, we think the ethics, the thinking about when we use artificial intelligence, there are many, many things to consider, and it's not just about having the scale, having the power to actually do this, finding the right data. There are many things that we need to put in place. Most of you probably know Isaac Asimov's rules about robotics. Perfect rules, great rules. They need to be expanded a little bit when it comes to artificial intelligence. I have linked to all of this. We've written a paper on the data ethics principles, but I'm just going to touch on one here, and that is the guard against bias. We need to remember that algorithms, even though they are self-learning, machine learning and all that, algorithms are still written by developers. And you're going to hear from a developer pretty soon. Developers are human beings. They make mistakes, and they also have bias. They are prejudiced. In the notes, I've referenced one very, very bad example from the US justice system, where they tried to introduce artificial intelligence without transparency into how the algorithm actually made the decisions it did. And it was pretty clear after a very short time that there was bias. Bias based on how the algorithm was built. But if you don't have the transparency, if you don't have the guards against this bias, if you don't have the human factor in, the people looking at this with empathy, understanding of what sense humans see in a decision, then artificial intelligence will not gain the trust that we needed to have to assist us and augment what humans are capable of. Final example. Get ready for some American, actually British, tears in your eyes.
I'm Saqib Sheikh. I lost my sight when I was 7, and shortly after that I went to a school for the blind. And that's where I was introduced to talking computers, and that really opened up a whole new world of opportunities. I joined Microsoft 10 years ago as a software engineer. I love making things which improve people's lives. And one of the things I've always dreamt of since I was at university was this idea of something that could tell you at any moment what's going on around you.
I think it's a man jumping in the air doing a trick on a skateboard.
I teamed up with like-minded engineers to make an app which lets you know who and what is around you. It's based on top of the Microsoft Intelligence APIs, which makes it so much easier to make this kind of thing. The app runs on smartphones, but also on the Pivot Head smart glasses. When you're talking to a bigger group, sometimes you can talk and there's no response, and you think, is everyone listening really well, or are they half asleep? And you never know.
I see two faces, 40-year-old man with a beard looking surprised, 20-year-old woman looking happy.
The app can describe the general age and gender of the people around me and what their emotions are, which is incredible. One of the things that's most useful about the app is the ability to read out text.
Hello, good afternoon. Here's your menu.
Great, thank you. I can use the app on my phone to take a picture of the menu, and it's going to guide me on how to take that correct photo.
Move camera to the bottom right and away from the document.
And then it'll recognize the text. Read me the headings.
I see appetizers, salads, paninis, pizzas, pastas.
Years ago, this was science fiction. I never thought it would be something that you could actually do. But artificial intelligence is improving at an ever faster rate. And I'm really excited to see where we can take this. As engineers, we're always standing on the shoulders of giants, building on top of what went before. And in this case, we've taken years of research from Microsoft Research to pull this off.
I think it's a young girl throwing an orange frisbee in the park.
For me, it's about taking that far-off dream and building it one step at a time. I think this is just the beginning.
Det er lige, hvad det er. Kun begyndelsen. Der er ingen tvivl om, det her det er live services alle sammen. Løsningen er der. Det bygger på løsninger, som I i dag kan gå ud og tage i brug. Det her er ikke science fiction. Så hvis jeg skal... I'm sorry. I switched to Danish right away. I just realized that. I'm sorry. It's here today. Okay. These services are ready, available, everybody can use them. Tons of companies are already doing it, not just Dinero, Danish and foreign. Now, in summary, these 3 items, I just want to make sure that you understand this is absolutely not just buzzwords. The solutions are here, the services are here. You should make them available to your company. Look at how you can engage your customers differently, how you can optimize your business, or maybe how you can create new products or transform the products you already have. There's no need to think of this as something science fiction-wise. It's here today. And the trends we've saw, the cloud, the intelligence, the analytics, and of course the big data, can actually assist us as human beings. It's not going to take over. Let's not fear Terminator. Terminator is not here. Or HAL 2000 from 2001, those who get that reference. And then finally, as Danes, I think most of the audience still are Danes, we're famous for adopting new technology. Let's embrace that, let's lean in, let's use it, let's stay critical, and let's stay focused on the ethics and make sure that we have a human factor when it comes to using these new technologies. Rules are needed, regulation is needed, but we have the ability, if you haven't figured out the picture up there, we have the ability to overtake the rest of the market with the way we approach new technology. Now, I'm a big book reader. I just want to give you some recommendations. You get the slide deck so you can look at these. If I should just bring up 4 great books on artificial intelligence, these would be the ones. Wait But Why, Tim Urban. I know Christiane is a big reader of Tim Urban's website as well. But Christopher Steiner on Automate This will give you an eye-opener on where algorithms, where artificial intelligence is already, both in your ears, your mind, your eyes, without you knowing it. Those were the words. If you want to get, I don't know, we don't have time for questions, but if anybody wants to get in touch with me, this is how you get my contact information. You either the link or you can use the QR code. Those were the words.